Well, hello. I usually start my presentations with trying to impact the audience. So basically, it will start with 33% that it is basically the number of production environments that are still on Java 8. So recently in September, Java released version 21, and we would expect that a lot of people are already in the more or less latest versions, but it's not. So we will see in a minute that, the market is not exactly what we would expect. But also I will give you some features that I have collected from Java 11 to Java 21. Well, basically, sorry, I skipped this. For those that are not clear where this talk is about, it's Java 11 to Java 21. And it's an opinionated collection of the new features that are production ready, only considering production ready features. Well, this is me. I'm Java champion since 2020. I'm also community driven because I'm one of the leaders of the Barcelona Java community since 2012. And one of the co-founders of JVCN and DevBCN conferences hosted here in Barcelona, where I'm living. I'm also a developer for more than 30 years now. But I've used, Java, obviously, but also several languages like Go. I have a special feeling for Delphi. I don't know if any of you have used Delphi before, but it was a great language, at least. But now I'm developer advocate for Sonar. If you want to know more about me, you can scan the QR code and just ping me in Twitter or in my blog or my email. So I work for Sonar. And what is Sonar? Well, it's basically the company that is providing tooling and methodologies for clean code for individuals and companies. And I'm just here showing the free products that are free for usage. Sonarlint, that it is the plugin IDE that will highlight all the issues that it is finding while you are coding. It covers more than 40 languages. And just only for Java, it has more than 600 rules that are going to check all the issues that you can be introducing. It's running in several IDEs, so probably you are using one of them. Also, SonarCube, that it is free in the community edition that you can download and run it on your premises, and it will analyze projects. And Sonar Cloud, that is the hosted version, that it is free if you have an open source project. If you want to know more, just go to sonarsource.com or just ping me in my channels. So the agenda for this presentation, basically, I will start with the QR for the slides. So if you want to check the slides while I'm talking about them, that would be great. So you have here the QR in order to check them. I'm going to show you a bit of which is the JDK version distribution in the market. I will try to answer for what, at least for me, a very important question, that it is what's an LTS. So we had Java 21 released in September, an LTS, long-term support version. But what does it mean, an LTS? I think there are a lot of things to consider that probably sometimes are like not considered. And we think one thing about LTS. Well, I will try to explain a bit the details of what it is an LTS. And then I will show you some features that are coming from Java 11, Java 17, and Java 21 that was released in September. Sorry, I needed to remove this next Tuesday. So I will not show intermediate versions because I will accumulate all the features that are introducing in the versions that are between, for instance, 11 and 17. I will introduce them in 17. So let's see which are the features. And finally, I will give you some conclusions, personal conclusions, and references if you want to go further in this topic. Well, those references, at least they helped me in order to create the presentation. And yeah, I found very interesting value on those references. So let's hope that for you, it's valuable too. So let's start with the presentation and let's see which is the JDK distribution. So one could think that Oracle is like controlling most of the market with Oracle JDK, but we need to think that Oracle JDK is only one of the options that we have. And now it's not even the most used JDK. So according to reports, on 2023, Amazon Corretto is already taking a lot of the market. Oracle is still there, but we have other options like Adoptium from OpenJDK, or even Red Hat, or in the REST bucket, we can find Bellsoft or Azul. All of these JDK distributions are different. So you will find some features in some of them, and even they take control of the bug fixing and the bug porting on those JDKs. Because in the end, what we use with Java is not Java. So we use Java to code, but we don't use, let's say, Java to run. To run, we need a JDK, a binary. That binary comes from one of those vendors. So it's important to see there are different options and that we need to check them all in order to find the one that fits best our needs. As I said, they have different features. They have even performance improvements in some of them that you will not find in others. So definitely it's important to check features, performance, and even support. And we will see about support in a minute. We have different vendors, we have different supports and lengths of support. So we see that, for instance, with Java 8 LTS, the first LTS, we had Oracle, OpenJDK, Eclipse Temurin, and Amazon Corretto. That was the 4 different vendors or different JDKs, and we had different lengths. This is important in order for you to know, well, when you are running your production environment under a JDK or on top of a JDK, you know for how long you will be covered by solving bug porting. In this case, well, we see for Java 21, they are not exactly the same on length. So it's also a criteria to consider when you choose a vendor and a JDK, which is the length of their support. Regarding the market, I started saying, okay, Java 8 has 33%. Well, we see that Java 11 is the most used version, but it's only covering half of the market. The other third is covered by Java 8. And then we have a small portion on Java 17 or 20 or 21. But you need to think that Java 8 was released almost 10 years ago. So there's a lot of people that are in a version that has more than 10 or around 10 years. Even with Java 11, it's a version 5 years old. But you see, here just checking the Temurin support. Java 11 finishes its support next year. So a lot of people should move from this Java 11 to Java 17 in order to have support covered. If not, they are going to have production environments without support when new bug fixes or CVEs are discovered, and they are not going to be backported to those versions. So it's also important to consider the version and the support for each version, and then definitely try to migrate to the next version possible. I've shown you the different LTS versions of Java, but basically what's an LTS? We think LTS is something related directly to the Java language, but it's not. It's a term marketing concept created by vendors. So it's one thing is the language. There's no difference between Java 20 and Java 21 from Java point of view. But vendors are giving support based on specific versions. So they are going to give usually 6-8 years on LTSs, but only 6 months on non-LTSs. But again, it's something that you need to check with the vendor of the binaries that you are using. You are going to have an LTS every 2 years. Now is the cadence for LTSs. So it's also an important point in order to check, well, it's not that you need to wait for a long time in order to have another LTS version that will cover way more years on support, or that you will benefit from the new features. Also, they are improving performance, so it's also an important thing to have in mind. Also need to think that different vendors can have different offers on support. For instance, Azul has medium-term support that it is added to the LTS that they have. So they have intermediate versions with longer support than the regular ones. Also important to consider, because with them you have like smaller steps or smaller changes in order to move from one version to another, because they have intermediate versions from each LTS. And the benefit from being in an LTS definitely is because, well, there are lots of bugs that are going to be backported to those versions, because you are going to have performance improvement. Well, in fact, you are going to have performance improvement in each version of Java. But LTSs are going to cover bugs and issues introduced by intermediate versions, and they are going to have those bug fixes for a longer time. They are going to have new features. Cannot be applied to any version. Vulnerabilities fixed, same. And commercial support. This is the big difference between intermediate versions and the LTSs. Definitely is something that you need to consider when you have your productions environment running on top of any JDK vendor. So let's start with which are the different versions that Java from 11 to 21 are bringing. I will start with Java 11 for those that are still on Java 8. And only this version is having, here I'm showing 7 features that I found interesting, but it's also covering 124 CVE fixes. So that's a lot of vulnerabilities and weaknesses fixed. So this Java 11 is covering new methods for the string API, for the file API. We are also having a collection to an array method, the not predicate that we didn't have before, and HTTP client running Java files directly, and TLS 1.3. Let's see the details of each of those features. We'll start with HTTP client. Well, for my slides, at the top of each feature, you will find the link to the JIP. And if it's an API improvement that it's not covered by a JIP, you will find the links to the back to the issues in their issues track system, where you can see the detail of those features. So basically, with HTTP client, now it is covering HTTP 1.2, that in the previous version, it was only up to 1.1. And before it was only covering blocking mode, and now we have also non-blocking. It changes the API, obviously, because it has new objects, and it's very easy to create a connection to an HTTP server, just using the new builder. So it's based on builders, and using the URI, headers, the method, and then the send method to send the information. It's an improvement in order to make more clear and standard the way of connecting to HTTP servers. In order to run Java files before Java 11, we needed to do Java-C, compile our Java application, or Java file, and then use Java in order to execute it. Now, with the Java command, it will compile and run it directly. There are new API changes for the string object, and now we have is blank in order to check if it's empty without no elements, and also no empty spaces. It also has a method to break it, the string in lines, to strip the spaces from both sides, or only on the front, only on the back, and also another method to repeat the string a number of times. For files, we have now a read string that will take a file and will return directly a string. So we don't need streams here. And with write string the same. So we can just simply use a file object and write a string directly to the file. There's another method to create an array from collections. In this case, it's from a list, and it will return an array. And the not predicate, basically, in order to create negative conditions. So before, we needed to create a positive condition not covering the element that we wanted. Well, in this case, now we have the contrary. So we can create a not predicate for a filter. It also has TLS 1.3. It doesn't change the API, just simply adds a new protocol, that is TLS B 1.3, and then it has another cipher suite. It doesn't cover completely TLS 1.3, but it has most of the features from it. If we move to Java 17, well, it is fixing more than around 50 CVEs, and I include here 13 features coming from different Java versions. I'm collecting Java 12, 14, 15, 16, and 17 features that I consider important or more interesting. Coming from Java 11, again, more modifications on the string API. Also, we will have a new method for files in order to compare. A team collector that will allow us to execute two different functions for a list of objects. That's a very interesting one. And a compact number formatting, we can specify a new pattern for formatting numbers more human readable. In Java 14, we will have more information for null pointer exceptions. We will see in a second. At the moment, we only see where the null pointer exception was thrown, but we don't see much of that. We will see more information now. Expression for switch. Then in Java 15, we have text blocks. We will be able to express text without having to format it manually. Now it's more clear, it's simpler. We have a new garbage collector. Coming from Java 16, we have day period support. So in order to say afternoon or morning, now we have something from the Java language. We will have a toList method that will allow us to do operations with streams and then obtain an immutable list. That's also interesting in order to create the same method for all people that are using this approach, and not that everyone is using a different approach for having this. It will introduce records, a very interesting feature, immutable pieces of information. That's it. Pattern matching also for instance of, that is going to be, clearer and shorter the text that we are introducing in order to check for instance of. And sealed classes on Java 17 that are introducing the ability for the definer to constrain who can extend or implement a class or interface. Let's see every one of them in detail. So in this case, for the string class, new methods, we are going to have the indent and the transform. Basically, the indent is introducing spaces on the left, and the transform is accepting a function as the argument. Therefore, our string is going to be sent to that function in order to be transformed. This can be also interesting in order to reduce the number of calls and also to have lazy evaluation in this case. So it's interesting, this new approach. With files, it's also an interesting one that is going to compare two different files, and it's going to return which is the first different element in the content. It's, instead of doing it ourselves, is going to do it internally. So if before having this, I assume you should have to read both files and then check the contents of the two files. This way is going to be faster and obviously clearer and shorter. The team collector is a very interesting one because it is accepting. So for a given collection, well, a stream, it's going to take two different collectors, and it's going to generate or execute a function with the result of those collectors. So in this case, it's clear to see that we have a stream of numbers, and we have one collector that it is summing all the elements, and another one that is counting all the elements. It's going to have both collections for the entire stream, and with the result of those collectors, what it is doing is, in this case, executing the function with the two arguments received from the ting method. With the compact number formatting, this is, well, it's not a big deal, but in some cases, instead of delegating to the front end and the way to express a number. This way, we can have like a standardized version of approach of getting values using the Java methods in order to specify, okay, which is the way that I want this number. This case, well, we can just simply say, okay, I want this short approach or the long approach of a number, specifying the number of digits. And you can see that, well, in one case, the short format uses the K and the long format uses the 1000. With null pointer exceptions, before Java 14, what we had is, okay, we have a null pointer exception in this line. But just consider the line, the code that we have, the first line, that says ABCI equals 99. If you receive a null pointer exception on that line, well, basically you don't know which is the element that it is null. It could be B, it could be C, it could be A. So now we have more information in the stack trace, and it will say, okay, this is the field that I cannot assign just because this object is null. So it's giving more information. Before Java 15, we needed to enable these extra arguments in the JVM, show code details in exception messages, but now it's true by default in Java 15. So we will have it for free, let's say, and we will have more information. It's also interesting in order to debug our code or just simply check the log, because we will see more detailed information and can lead us to solve it faster. With the switch expression, well, it's been superimposed, the switch expression in Java. So you need to do the case for each element, for each option, and then to break when you need to not cascade the value or the execution to the other options. So definitely it's not easy to read. So in a total focus on making code that it is way more readable, easier to understand, now we have the different options and the return value. That's it. And we have it as an expression. So we have, in this case, a variable that takes the value that is returned by the switch. Definitely, the code in the right is way clearer than the one on the left. So that's also a nice improvement. So now we have another garbage collector also in Java 15 that is, well, it's basically faster because it's doing well, sub-millisecond max post time, so it's really fast, and it can handle heaps that are from 8 megabytes to 16 terabytes in size. That's also a very interesting element. And before before Java 17, well, in both cases, we need to enable it using this JDK argument, use zero garbage collector. But now in Java 17, also what we have is that this garbage collector will dynamically scale up the number of concurrent garbage collector threads. Before Java 17, you needed to specify it and configure it. So also this is important improvement in order for you to use this zero garbage collector. With text blocks, well, basically what it is allowing us is to introduce text and will respect the breaks and some kinds of formatting if we start and finish the text with 3 double quote marks. If it allows also us to add a slash, and it will remove the line. So as you can see here, we have a span example slash text span. It will remove the new line, and it also allows us to add slash s, and it will introduce a forced space instead of finishing on the last non-space character. For Java 16, what we have is the pattern matching for instance of. So before Java 16, we needed to check that an object was an instance of, in this case, a string, and have an intermediate variable that takes the value casted to the type that we are checking and then used it. But now what we can do is everything in the same line. So we are checking that an object is an instance of a class, and at the same time specifying a variable that is of that type that will take the value if this condition is true. In this case, well, it's basically done towards reducing verbosity in Java and also increasing readability. Because in this case, well, when you have different typecasts, even you could have a different typecast on the before inside the condition that it in the check, but now it's everything more consistent and clear. And in Java 16, they introduced records. Records is a very powerful feature in my well, I think about it, and basically it's introducing, well, we could have the same before Java 16 with final classes, but in this case what we have is a more concise, less verbose and consistent way of defining immutable information entities. So creating a record is going to give us immutability, and also it will have the hash code to string and equals already created by the language. So it's very easy, less verbose, and it's going to increase the readability of our code. With Java 16, we also have a new addition to the datetime formatter. So now what we can do is, okay, give me the hour, but also tell me if it's in the afternoon, in the morning. So we have different human patterns to format the dates in order, well, to introduce this more human approach in the hour. Also, we have in Java 16 a method in streams in order to return immutable lists. So once we have a stream, we do operations with map, we collect them, and we want to return the values of that stream. Before, we needed to do a collect and also collectors to list. This will return a mutable list. So we could just simply say, okay, collectors to an immutable list. But we are having to specify collect and specify which is the collector that we want to have. Now what we have is the to list, and it's going to return an immutable list. And yeah, it's, again, we can have the same without this feature, but this feature is introducing, it's adding less verbosity, so it's reducing verbosity, and it's making the code clear and consistent across the code. So the same way of obtaining lists from maps, and it will like enforce immutability. So that's a good point. With Java 17, we have sealed classes. So now let's imagine that we have a class and anyone can implement, so can extend that class. And if we have an interface, everyone can implement that interface. But with sealed classes, what we are defining is, okay, which are the classes that are allowed to extend or implement a class. This way, we are sealing our classes, just being sure that no one out of the allowed list of implementers or extenders is really adding implementation or changing the implementation for those classes. They are also providing a trick. So in this case, you can see here we have a class called shape, and we allow circle, rectangle, square, or wedge shape classes to extend this class. But what it means is nobody out of that list will be able to extend the class. But what we can do is say, okay, but rectangle is a non-sealed class. What we are doing is, at the level of rectangle, we are breaking the seal. Therefore, nobody will be able to extend shape that it is not one of those 4 classes, but everybody will be able to extend rectangle. So we can specify where the ceiling is broken. And now we reach Java 21, the newest version in Java. And well, it's resolving 8 CVEs, and I will highlight 6 features that for me are very interesting. From Java 18 code snippets in the Java documentation, it's more look and feel feature in order to show code that you're introducing in your Java docs, especially for those that are creating APIs, that they can show information in a more clear way. And from Java 21, we have sequenced collections, record patterns. So we are going to see patterns that we've seen for switch, but now for records, pattern matching for switch. A very important feature that is virtual threads. And now they are preparing to disallow the dynamic loading of agents. We will see what are those. Code snippets is, as I said, is a look and feel, basically. So what we can do is introduce code snippets in the Java doc, and they will be shown as real code for the documentation generators. We have sequenced collections. Basically, before this, we didn't have an order for collections, except for ordered set or sorted set, or sorted maps. But now it's introducing a common number of methods for all the collections, saying, okay, add first, add last, get first, get last, remove first, and remove last. It's basically introducing the same way of managing this like order for the collections. Also for sets, now what we have is this reverse, that they will just simply return the reverse list. And the same for sorted maps and linked hash maps. So what we have now, it's not a super powerful feature, but it's again introducing consistency and a more clear approach on doing the same thing, that probably in order to handle the order, we were doing this in a different way, every one of us. So now it's introducing consistency. It's going to disallow dynamic loading of agents. So now, in order to a dynamic agent to be used, you need to specify that you are allowing these agents. You need to think that now it's not blocking those agents, but it's just simply warning in the log. But in the future, they are going to disable them. So it will be just an explicit enablement for those agents. Record patterns. Well, before Java 21, when we had record, we needed to do the object instance point P. Well, it's an improvement, but you needed to get the values of the members of the record. Now you can just have the members of the record directly in the same expression. So in this case, it's the members X and Y are available in the same expression as the check. Again, introducing less verbosity and more consistency across the language. Virtual threads, I will explain them a bit fast. When we have platform threads, those are threads that are considered taking into consideration the operative system threads available. So it's not that you can create 1 million threads and they are going to be executed in parallel. That's not how it works. But with virtual threads, what we are going to have is like a virtual pool of threads, and every thread is going to use, so every virtual thread is using one physical thread, but several virtual threads can use or will use the same physical thread. So what it is happening is if no IO blocking call is executed, then they are just simply executing the thread. That's it. But when there's a blocking operation, that virtual thread is on hold and another virtual thread takes place, sharing the same physical thread. That way, we can run millions of threads in parallel, and we will see a lot of improvement in the execution because it's more effective in order to execute things and bypass like the blocking calls. Pattern matching for switch. Again, it's introducing less verbosity. Now we are having, sorry. In this case, we have if object is instance of a class, and we need to do else if. Now we have a switch, and we can check for the type of that object, or the class of that object. And it's going to be, as you can see, the same method is executed on the right, is way clearer what it's doing. Instead of having ifs and else, having only a switch that it's operating not on the value, but on the type of the object. And finally, I will conclude my presentation just with this final thoughts. Basically, LTS should be the version to use in production because the support that you will have. Also, that most of the users are still in Java 8 or Java 11, so the market is not as mature or modern that we should expect. Also, that there is not only one vendor, that there are several JDK vendors, and you should check those vendors and their features, their support, and the performance even. LTS cadence is now 2 years. It was 3 before, so now it's 2 years. So every 2 years we will expect a new LTS. And every version, not only applicable to LTS, but to all versions, are going to improve the API. They are going to do bug fixing and CV. So it's important to consider new versions in order to have more performant software. And definitely one super final thought that it is Java is obviously alive, very alive, and it's free. So those rumors about paying for Java, no. Java is very alive and it's completely free. If you want to know more about this, well, you can check the New Relic ecosystem state for 2023, and also follow the OpenJDK issue track, where you will see all the bug fixes and features introduced, the summary of the evolution of features, and the vulnerabilities that are being fixed in every version. This is everything that I had. I hope it was interesting, and thank you very much. By the way, you have the slides QR and also the feedback. If you want to give me feedback, I will totally appreciate. Or if you want to contact me with my email or my Twitter. Thank you very much.